This story titled, One Apology Too Late, How I Lost My Closest Friend. Friendships are supposed to last forever, aren't they? At least, that's what I always thought. My name is Rachel Evans, and I'm 27 years old. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, where I work as a freelance writer. I've always been someone who values connections, deep, meaningful ones. But there's one friendship I'll never stop regretting losing. One person I'll carry with me forever, Sarah Green. Sarah and I met when we were 13. She moved to my neighborhood from Chicago, a shy girl with big glasses and a love for fantasy novels. I was the opposite, loud, brash, and always eager to make people laugh. Yet somehow, we clicked. From the moment she laughed at one of my dumb jokes, I knew we'd be inseparable. And we were. By the time high school rolled around, we were practically glued at the hip. We spent countless nights watching terrible horror movies, whispering secrets under the covers during sleepovers, and dreaming about our futures. Sarah wanted to be an illustrator. She could bring anything to life with her pencils. I wanted to write stories, and we'd often joke about creating a book together, her art, my words. It felt like we were unstoppable, like nothing could break the bond we had. But life isn't that simple, is it? The cracks started to form during our senior year. I was focused on getting into a top university, and Sarah, well, she was struggling. Her parents were going through a messy divorce, and it was taking a toll on her. She stopped coming to school as often, her sketches grew darker, and she started pulling away. At first, I tried to be there for her. I'd sit in her room for hours talking about anything and everything, trying to pull her out of the fog she was in. But over time, it started to feel exhausting. Selfishly, I wanted the old Sarah back, the one who laughed at my jokes, like who made everything fun and light. I didn't know how to handle the weight of her pain. And then came the fight. It was a stupid argument, the kind that doesn't seem like a big deal until it's too late. I can't even remember what started it. Something about me bailing on her for a college prep event. But the words we exchanged, those I'll never forget. "You're so selfish, Rachel," she snapped, her voice trembling. "You only care about yourself and your stupid future." I fired back, my own frustration boiling over. Well, maybe if you stopped wallowing in your misery, you'd actually have a future to think about. The moment the words left my mouth, I saw her face crumble. She didn't yell back, didn't fight. She just stared at me, tears brimming in her eyes, and whispered, "I didn't think you'd be like everyone else." And then she walked away. I wanted to chase after her, to apologize, but my pride held me back. I told myself she'd get over it, that we'd be fine. After all, we always were. But days turned into weeks, and then months. Sarah stopped answering my texts, stopped sitting with me at lunch, stopped coming to our usual hangouts. By the time graduation rolled around, we were strangers. I thought about reaching out, about saying I was sorry, but I always found an excuse not to. She doesn't want to hear from me, I'd tell myself. Or, it's too late to fix things. And then, 2 years later, I got the call. It was her mom. Sarah had passed away. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, clutching the phone as Sarah's mom explained what had happened. It was an overdose. Sarah had been battling depression for years, something I had known but never fully grasped. Her mom said she'd been in and out of therapy but struggled to find the light in a world that often felt too dark for her. My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest. All I could think about was the last time we spoke, the argument that had driven a wedge between us. If only I had reached out. If only I had apologized. If only I had been a better friend. The funeral was held the following week, a small gathering in a quiet church on the outskirts of town. Walking into that room was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Her mom hugged me tightly, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "She always loved you, Rachel. Even when you weren't speaking, she never stopped." Those words broke me. As I approached the casket, I felt a wave of memories wash over me. The nights we spent dreaming about our futures, the way her laughter filled every room, the countless times she had been there for me when I needed her most. And now she was gone, and there was nothing I could do to change that. On the drive home, I replayed our fight over and over in my mind. I thought about all the moments I could have reached out, all the times I could have set my pride aside and told her I was sorry. But I hadn't. And now it was too late. Grief has a way of consuming you, of making you question everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world. For weeks, I barely ate, barely slept, barely functioned. I kept thinking about the book we had always talked about creating together. Her art, my words. It was supposed to be our legacy, a testament to our friendship. But now it would never exist. One day, as I was going through an old box of keepsakes, I found a sketchbook Sarah had given me for my birthday when we were 16. Flipping through the pages, I was struck by the beauty of her art. Scenes of fantastical worlds, characters with expressive faces, and little notes she'd written in the margins. At the back of the book, there was a drawing of the two of us, laughing as we sat under a tree. Beneath it, she had written, "Best friends forever, no matter what." Tears streamed down my face as I traced the lines of her drawing, feeling the weight of her absence more than ever. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. I realized that while I couldn't change the past, I could still honor her memory. I opened my laptop and began to write. At first, it was just for me, a way to process my grief, to pour out all the emotions I didn't know how to express. I wrote about our friendship, about the moments that had defined us, about the laughter we shared, and the pain that had torn us apart. As the pages filled, an idea began to take shape. What if I wrote the book we had always dreamed of? What if I used her art and my words to create something beautiful, something that could keep her spirit alive? It took months of hard work and countless late nights, but eventually the book was finished. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. A collection of stories and illustrations that celebrated the magic of our friendship. When it was published, I donated all the proceeds to mental health organizations, hoping to make a difference for others who were struggling like Sarah had. Sharing her story was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was also one of the most healing. People reached out to tell me how much it resonated with them, how it made them feel less alone. Through it all, I carried Sarah with me, in every word I wrote, in every drawing I shared, in every person I connected with. She may have been gone, but her laughter, her light, and her love lived on. If there's one thing I've learned from losing Sarah, it's that we can't take the people we love for granted. Apologize when you've hurt someone. Reach out, even if it feels uncomfortable. Tell the people who matter to you how much you love them, while you still can. Sarah taught me that friendships are fragile, precious things, and that we have to nurture them, even when it's hard. And though I'll always regret not saying I'm sorry when I had the chance, I know she forgave me. I see it in her art, in her laughter that echoes in my memories, and in the love she left behind. If my story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional and inspiring stories. Your support means the world to me, and I'm honored to share these moments with you. Thank you for being here.